We put on a whole comedy festival. What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. So, happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. That's what today is when I'm recording this. I will tell you that this is the Monday after we just put on the absolute best LGBTQ comedy festival in the world. Had to be. It was the best. I mean, like, it really was the best. And, you know, I got to apologize to the people I know because I was kind of bummed because my set wasn't as fun as I usually like it to be, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But in the words of Tim Dillon, I was being really petty and small-minded at that time. That's not something he said to me. It's something that he said on his podcast, and it really resonated with me. He was in a completely different context, though, talking to his fans about something. But it is a petty and small-minded way to think about it when you just put on what is literally a historic event. You know, ours was the first ever LGBTQ comedy festival in the entire state of Nevada, which means all of Las Vegas, no gays ever thought to put on a comedy festival here. No LGBTers, plusers, ever thought to put on a comedy festival here in Las Vegas. And this bitch was the creator. And I joke when I do the creator thing because I was the creator. That's what's so crazy about it, you know, like this started off just a silly conversation I was having at lunch, just something I said. I was talking to my friend Stephen Roberts, my co-producer Stephen Roberts, and I said, I should put on my own comedy festival. And he was like, you know, that actually is possible. And I was like, yeah, and I'll call it the Don't Try It Bitch Comedy Festival. Because we were talking about how when you're an LGBTQ comedian, in a lot of cases you get painted into this corner where if you don't have particular ideas or you don't express things in a particular way, then suddenly you're treated like the enemy and you don't get invited to do a lot of other LGBT events. But I'm an LGBT comic that's been around forever. I mean, like, I really have been around forever, and I've been working the road for much longer than most other gay comics, and working rooms that most other gay comics haven't always wanted to do. And that's just what my career has been. And I am the first ever openly gay comedian to perform in Mongolia. That is something that's all mine. You know, I have done a lot of stuff, you know, and it's not about the recognition. It's just about the fact that you're excluded because, like, in spite of your talent, you're still excluded because you don't carry a particular message or carry the message in a particular way. And sometimes I feel like people are more worried about the words in the message than they are in the mission, which if we have the same mission, which my mission is really just to show that LGBT can be just as good as anybody else, so should get the shots that we should get. Like, that's the way I started off, was I really wanted to do stand-up and I wanted to be on everything. And you know, for a long time, like I mentioned, even the fact that you were gay made it so that you weren't family friendly. So I even come from that, you know, from remembering that time, which it's not like I've been around forever, but 17 years is a good stretch of time. And I felt like, I know a lot of other comics that fall under that umbrella that A, aren't getting work like they should be getting work, and B, constantly get treated like the only time that they should get booked is like a gay pride week. And sometimes that can be terrible because a lot of people don't want to leave the festivities at gay pride to go to an independent venue for a comedy festival or a comedy show, or, you know, like, it's just not the way it works, but that's the way straight people see it. And sometimes straight bookers also think that you just plain can't work their room. Their audience wouldn't get you. You know, you're not what their audience usually goes for, is something I've heard quite a bit. So you've got that side of it where it's like, you know, some of the straight bookers thinking that you're not capable of doing their shows, and then you go to the LGBT side and they say that you're not carrying the message the right way, so you're not allowed to do their shows. And for me, like, it really is the kind of thing where it's like, if we're really supposed to be a rainbow, can I not have different thoughts from you? And, like, especially some of the people that have compared their thinking to mine, in a lot of cases it has been young white gays that will get offended, or LGBT that'll get offended. And it's like, does it not occur to you that maybe a brown person that's also gay maybe has a different experience than you did, or maybe where I grew up affects that too, maybe where I come from, what I've had to perform in? Like, our experience could be different, so the way I phrase things naturally would be a bit different because we're not describing the exact same experience. But when we're LGBT, we're all supposed to say that we identify the same way as far as what we think the world is treating us like and where we think the discrimination is coming from. And for everybody, that's individual. So, you know, the way that people should talk about it is from a personal perspective, in my opinion, so that more and more people can get like, okay, well, I like you. So if a person likes you, then they're more likely to be open to liking another LGBT person. And that's what I do. And so I don't understand why I get excluded from a lot of things. So for me, it's just like I wanted other voices to be heard, and they don't have to be at all like mine. No, that's not what this was about. This was about what I feel towards my community and other LGBT comedians, which my thing with other LGBT comedians has always been, just because we're LGBT doesn't mean that we should expect less of ourselves. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be just as funny as other comedians. Doesn't mean that we should chalk an audience having an adverse response, or maybe not the ideal response to a particular joke or a particular subject. We shouldn't just automatically dismiss that as homophobia, because sometimes it's not homophobia. Sometimes you really just haven't worked out the joke properly. And the fact that you're dealing with that particular subject matter, unfortunately for us as LGBT comedians, may play a factor into that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you should chalk it up to homophobia and just go ahead and not work on that joke, not figure out how to make that joke work in any audience. And that's the kind of comedians I wanted, was comedians that understand that it does take all types, and it does take different kinds of thinking to get to where you're going in stand-up comedy. And it does sometimes take going out on a limb and having a particular, maybe an unpopular opinion, or expressing unpopular opinions at different points, and exploring everything to do with yourself, like, you know, what was ingrained with you when you were younger as far as, you know, homophobia or feelings about being gay. Like, there's so many gay men that want to appear to be straight that it really does get like, well, if you're so proud to be gay, then why is it you're always asking everybody else to be straight, and you want to let everybody know that you're masculine, mask as they call it in the community? You know, like, why do you care about that if you're so proud to be gay? Like, why are you so caught up on that? Like, when it comes to pronouns sometimes, like, I sometimes accidentally misgender people. But it is an accident whenever I do it, because that's not where my heart is. I'm not trying to misgender you. I just used the wrong term because I got caught up in my head, and maybe, like, you know, different factors were happening, and that's just the way my brain worked at that moment. And it doesn't mean that I don't know that it was an accident, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest thing in the world. Like, sometimes that's something I get caught up with on some people that are gender non-conforming or transgender or non-binary. It's like these are all new things for people. That's one thing. And the other thing is, like, when it comes to me specifically, I always feel like, okay, if you really don't care about gender and you think it's a societal construct or whatever you think about gender, if you really think that, then why do you flip out when somebody addresses you as the wrong gender? Like, why is that considered such an insult? Because to me, I see nothing wrong with being misgendered, like called a woman or anything like that. Because to me, a woman isn't a bad thing. A woman isn't a less equal thing, less intelligent. You know, like, it's just not what it is in my thinking. So when my friends are joking or being silly and they say girl or bitch or miss thing or whatever they say, then for me, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna make a big deal of it, because I even have people do it on my channel sometimes. Like, especially when I had the longer hair, there would be people that would comment. I posted it on my Instagram before, like a screenshot of it, like where people post, is this supposed to be a man or a woman? And I'm like, I'm whatever you want me to be. I don't care. And when I say I don't care, I mean I really don't care. You can refer to me as he, she, it, that bitch. Call me what you want. I'm every woman. I don't fucking care. I'm not going to make a big deal of it. And that's the way I feel with a lot of other people that are kind of, different or like from the community. Like, I don't care if you call me stuff to try to insult me. It doesn't change my life. It doesn't change my reality. It doesn't change the way I feel about myself. It doesn't change what I know about myself. Like, none of this really matters. So if we joke about it, especially in a way that is helping, that could possibly educate people, then I think that's a very good thing. And I think we should have as many different voices saying it as many different ways, because the way that you say it and people take it in, there's an audience for that, and they're going to take it in and they're going to take you the way that you mean it. And audiences can tell if you have good intentions or bad intentions. Are you trying to be nice, or are you just trying to be an asshole, or not trying to be nice? Are you trying to be funny, or are you just trying to be an asshole? Like, what are you doing? Like, the audience will be able to tell. Everything gets magnified when you're on stage. Like, you can tell when people are being hateful and when they're just being silly and telling jokes and trying to entertain an audience and, acknowledging that there are things that are different from the way a lot of us grew up or what a lot of our parents saw, especially. And so it's like, for me, it's not bad to have different opinions. And if we're really supposed to be a rainbow, what about all the colors of the rainbow and every hue in between? It can't just be the shades you like. Like, the prism, if you look at it, there's all the colors that you see on when you do, like, editing. Or if you do anything to do with, like you see the color wheel and you see the way it all, So it takes every color to make everything. Maybe not every color to make everything, but you know what I'm saying. But, so I like what I try to do. What I wanted to do with this festival, and one of the things we all set out to do, was make people as comfortable as they possibly could be, to make it a good experience for the comedians that came out, have a diverse spectrum of voices, like that's something that we wanted, but we weren't going to sacrifice the funny for that, but we definitely did keep it in mind. It's kind of like, there's funny people of all different genders, all different identifications. So if we take enough submissions, which we didn't close the submissions at any point or deny any submissions, but if we take enough submissions, then maybe we get a good swatch, and we were able to. We had really good comics. Like, I can honestly say, I'm not disappointed in any of the comedians that we selected to be on the festival. Where there's some people that did better than others, that's going to happen sometimes. That's going to happen. Well, it's not going to happen sometimes. It's going to happen all the time. There's comedians, and different things are going to go for different audiences, and different people are going to respond in different ways. I already mentioned, I didn't have my favorite set, but did I eat shit? No. Was it a bad set? No. But was it me? Was it what Ty Rivera does? No. It was not. So, but I also think about that in a way too, like, what's the lesson in what happened? Because you can think about things as far as, like, how would I change things, or how would I do things differently, or what did I do that day that I did differently from any other time I do it? And that's a constructive way to look at things, but at the same time, it's very helpful to just look at the facts, because for me, I feel like everything happens for a reason. So I don't really believe in a lot of mistakes. I believe that things happen for a reason. It's my job to figure out what the reason is and what lesson it is I'm supposed to extract from what actually happened. And for me, there were a couple of ways that I could have tightened it up and made it so I did what it was I wanted to do. Because the other thing was, what you have to know about my actual set was I was planning on going, like, more from the heart. I was planning on being more, just off the top of my head. But then I realized that if I go off the top of my head, there's a chance that I could end up crying. And I didn't know if I wanted to cry in front of that audience, I didn't know if that would torpedo the whole show or if it would make it so that people would really understand what I was saying. You know? Like, and I was disappointed in myself because while I was up there, I was thinking, like, this isn't what you said you were going to do. Like, this is not what you wanted to do, because what I wanted to convey to everybody was that I really wanted all of our comedians to feel as comfortable as possible, because I know what it's like to be different, and I know what it's like to be in the comedy world and you feel kind of alone because you're not the same as everybody else. And when I was going through it, there were way fewer gay comics. There just were, you know? And so, like, the gay comics weren't nice to me when I first showed up in West Hollywood, because the first gay show I ever did was right in West Hollywood. And, like, the gay comedians wouldn't perform that much outside of a gay-specific venue. And so there were far fewer of those than there were just regular clubs, and regular bars and regular open mics. You know, at that time I wasn't really doing clubs. I was doing, like, true open mic stuff. You know, coffee houses, bars, the back of restaurants, like that kind of stuff. And I knew that I had to work hard because I had terrible stage fright, like to where the lights would spin. And I knew I had to get rid of that. So that meant that I had to go every room I could possibly go to. Every room I could possibly go to, I had to go to get rid of this stage fright. Because I knew I wanted to do this, but I didn't know how I was going to get it done with this terrible stage fright. But I know the only way to get through that kind of thing is by repetition, doing it over and over and over. So I'd go up as much as I could, 3 and 4 times a night. That's the way it started. Then there got to a point in LA where things were crazy and you can do 5 to 7 in a night. I would do 5 to 7 a night. I'd be driving around everywhere. There was a point where I was working, had a boyfriend, driving around doing open mics all the time, sleeping in my truck so that I could, at the time I drove a Jeep Grand Cherokee. It was an older one, not living flashy life or anything, just that's what I drove because that's what was given to me. And you know, was sleeping in my car in between sets, and then I'm like the only gay one on the scene, the only one going out. This was 17 years ago, and it was, you know, like, or 16 years ago, and that's what it was. You know, I was just going out as much as I possibly could, and it was okay for people to be openly homophobic. You know, I'd get called a faggot, like, at the beginning on a regular basis, you know? And you're trying not to be a headache, you're trying not to be a problem. So, you know, every once in a while you snap back at people or, you know, say something, but sometimes you just let it go. And then there's different times when people are wiping the microphone down after your set, and everybody starts laughing about it like it's the funniest thing in the world, but it keeps happening and you learn to be a sport about it, and you're like, okay. Then people say, like, stuff about you being gay, like in your intro, just to kind of throw you under the bus with the audience. Like, there was one time when I was introduced as the gayest homo ever. Literally, that was my introduction. I was the gayest homo ever. And, like, at this point, I had already done enough stand-up that I was able to get on and make fun of it to a point where the whole audience was just dying, and it made the host look like a dumbass. And he did apologize to me, and he was like, it was really just a brain fart. And I had to take him at his word, you know, because he had always been nice enough. He was like, I thought that was going to come out funnier, but it didn't. But I still got introduced as the gayest homo ever. And I didn't know what to do with that, so, you know, I made it fun. But it did give me, like, a thicker skin, and it made me, in my opinion, a better comedian. Do I think people should have to go through that now? No, I don't think people should have to go through that now. But at the same time, I actually did go through that. And so this festival was kind of came from that too, like thinking, like, I want these people to know that it's okay to be you, it's okay to be different, and you can actually get some stuff done. Like, I mentioned some of the stuff I've done. I've been on Comedy Central a couple of times, you know, I've done other little TV spots. I was the first ever openly gay comedian to perform for the Hispanic Caucus in Washington, D.C., you know, like, I mean, like, I've done military tours, and I'm always just me. I'm as gay as I am. I'm as me as I am. I'm just me. And so I wanted other comedians to know that it is possible to work while being just you and not having to change yourself. Just knowing that you're going to have to work on your material. You're going to have a sense of humor about yourself. You're going to have to at points be a little self-deprecating, just so people know that there is a human side to you and it's not all just hard, And so that's what I wanted the comics to know at this festival. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that I have been through discrimination. And so then, and like I said, I don't feel sorry for myself, and I'm not down about myself for that. I feel like it made me a stronger person and a better comic. But at the same time, when you have other gay people that, maybe stayed in the closet because it was more comfortable or didn't feel comfortable doing stand-up at that time or going places outside of the gay, well, I took all those hits for a lot of you. So now there are certain rooms that you're open to because I went out there and showed them that a gay comedian could actually do that. There are certain places that I have kicked down that door for, other LGBT. And again, it's not about getting the credit for it. It's making the point that you do that and you find the way to make it work. You find the way to make people laugh. You find the way to get yourself booked. You find the way to do it. And then other gay comedians start showing up on the scene. But you don't feel threatened at all by that because you're not a hater and you're smart enough to know that nobody else is going to be you. And that's the way I look at it. That's why I don't mind putting on a gay comedy festival and showcasing other gay comedians, because I'm not worried about my position. I'm going to continue to be me no matter what happens. So I'm not worried about that. But you meet the other gay comedians, the newer ones. And I'm not talking about the ones at this festival. I'm talking about the ones from before, when they were first starting to come on the scene. And you're happy about it. You're like, yes, I finally have some company. I finally have other gay and lesbian comedians to be friends with and to talk to like we talk, and to feel comfortable and not have to explain things to them. They know how sometimes gay relationships can be, or they know some of the subtleties of gay life. And those people completely reject you because you don't say things the way that they think you should say them. And then you get your feelings hurt, Because it's like, I was excited to see you. I thought we were going to be friends. Or you make friends with other gay comedians. You actually think you're friends with them. And then you end up finding out that they've been talking about you. And you're like, well, that's not cool. I actually liked you. I didn't pretend to like you. There's no benefit to me pretending to like you. There's nothing you can do for me. And I'm not saying that, people should go around pretending to like each other for that reason. Because if you know anything about me, I've met a lot of influential people. And if I don't like you, I just don't like you. And I know that's maybe not the smartest way, but for me, it makes it so it's a genuine way. It makes it so you don't have to worry about what my intentions are with being your friend. I'm your friend because I like you. I don't care what you can or can't do, because if I cared what somebody could or couldn't do, I'd have much more influential friends, because I would have made it a point to hold on to those people. And it's not like I had contentious relationships or bad relationships with these people, but they just weren't necessarily my vibe. So, and I can't pretend to, if you see me, if you've met me, that I don't pretend like that. I'm just not good at it. I'm not built for it. So, I genuinely thought these people were my friends, and career-wise, they couldn't do anything for me. But the flip to that is I could actually do stuff for them career-wise. So they were more content to pretend to be my friends because they still wanted that benefit. But then they're talking behind my back. And it was disappointing, because it's like, well, you're gay, I'm gay. We're supposed to be on each other's side. I recommended you for work because I actually, wanted to help you out. And not only because you're gay, but because you're funny and then I find out you're talking about me and in a bad way and making it seem like, like lying about my career and where, like, stuff that can hurt a person's career. Like, with me, it really wouldn't, because, it's kind of a take it or leave it situation at this point, like, people say so much stuff about me, and sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. And in a lot of cases, I'm not here to defend, deny, or confirm a lot of stuff. I'm like, whatever, like, if you heard that, I guess assume it's true and decide whether or not you would be friends with me then. I don't know what to tell you, because I'm not going to sit and be like, I did say this, I didn't do this. I mean, like, I will tell you, there have been situations where I've been promised to work a particular situation and been very clear about what my requests were, and then had people later on like make it a big deal and say that they weren't able to do that and try to make excuses, and then me be like, yeah, that goes against the agreement we had. This was the way it was supposed to work out, and people have called me difficult for that. And it's like, that's not being difficult. That's not being a diva. That's actually expecting someone to live up to their side of what the agreement was, Hotel rooms is a big one I've talked about before, where people try to like stiff me on the hotel room or not have a hotel room for me. And it's like, well, we talked about this, and where did you think I was going to stay? Like, did you think I was going to have a friend's couch just by chance in your city? Or did you think I had a family there? Because, I don't. I mean, like, even when I'm in Phoenix anymore, I don't like staying at my family's place just because they have their own life and their own space, and I don't want to go sleep on somebody's couch. What am I, 12? I mean, like, I know that, people couch surf much later than that, and I have couch surfed, and if I had a good enough friend, I would sleep on their couch if I just happened to be in their town and we were hanging out or something. But I don't want to have to be like, I have to sleep on your couch. But I've had people say that I'm difficult for that, and it's like, it's not being difficult. Like, that's one that, when people bring that up, that I'm willing to talk about, but that's because that's work related. But sometimes when it comes to personality, people will be like, well, he said this, and it's like, actually, you changed my words, but I would have to go through all of those, So instead of denying it or going through it, I just say, I don't care what you think. Like, if you think that that's what I did, then cool, then that's what I did. But, I personally meet people when I meet them. Like, I don't let what somebody else tells me about somebody, and I don't even care if I really like the person that tells me it. I mean, I will put an extra little flag there, to like be on the lookout, because this person let them know that they were shady with them. But then even that, there's people that, have stiffed people on money, but then I meet them and they're completely cool with me and they never screw me over in any way. They always hold up their end of the bargain. And so I'm not supposed to do business with them because they fucked you over? Well, maybe the way you communicate isn't as clear. Or maybe, I don't know, a million things could have happened. I'm not going to assume that they're just a bad person. And I feel like that same way when I hear about other people working for people that have, like, not been the best with me. Very few people have actually screwed me over, like, as far as long term. You know what I mean? Like, it just hasn't happened like that. But, like, the ones that have tried or even, gotten away with it in a way, like, I still don't tell other people they shouldn't work for them or they shouldn't talk to them or, do stand up with them. It's different for everybody. So, like, even on that, I don't think that we should, like, completely dismiss people because of what other people have said, and so this is more the way I go at it in my thinking, and I know that it's different from a lot of people, because a lot of people like to have like a pack mentality and feel like because their friend doesn't like this person, now they shouldn't like that person. And I don't feel like that, and I don't ask that of my friends. Even my best friend, Chris, he doesn't like tell me who I should and shouldn't like, and I don't tell him. Like, he's my best friend. I never, like, told him, oh, you shouldn't talk to this person, because, he talks to people, and it just happened last week. He talks to people that I've, had run-ins with, and even with that, I don't care about, like a lot of this stuff I don't care about long term, but I just feel like if I end up finding out you're that kind of person, then that is going to hurt my feelings and make me not want to hang out with you. And then the fact that you turn out to be gay on top of it, I just feel like it's an extra fucking kick, because we already know how it is for us being different. So it's like, why are you trying to make my life any harder than it has to be, when one, what you're saying isn't necessarily true, or isn't true at all really in that one particular case especially, and then two, why would you want to hurt what I'm doing anyway? Like, I don't do anything to hurt anybody, you know? Like, I've helped so many other LGBT comics, you know, like Jeffrey J, who like travels, like he works a lot, Jeffrey J. When I originally met Jeffrey J, I was doing an LGBT show in Texas. It was Addison, Texas, the Improv. And I was doing this show that was called Stand Up Proud, and I had put that show together, and I worked with people that were, we can talk about it later, but like, you know, they didn't turn out to be the hardest workers. And that really did bother me, because like that tour, I put a lot of stuff together. And I mean, like, that was me, like putting a lot of stuff together. Did they help? Yes. But at the same time, they didn't really help. And so, but that's beside the point. I was doing this tour, and we roll into Addison, Texas to do this one show, and the servers are like, we were wondering if our friend could possibly be on your show. And we already had our lineup for the show, so I was really thinking in my head, like, not likely, you know? And then they were like, yeah, we just feel like he would really be good in your show. Like, you know, she's really cool. I mean, like, it's just, and they're getting flustered, like, trying to explain this to me. And finally I was like, all right, what exactly are you guys talking about right now? Because you just said he, and then you said she, and then you said he, she. And I'm like, what are you guys trying to tell me? And they were like, okay, well, one of our servers is transgender. And then in my head, I'm just like, bitch, I've been around forever. Like, I know transgender. It's not new to me, you know? And they were like, yeah, he's transgender, and his name is Jeffrey J, and he's done some open mics and stuff like that, but he doesn't really get on shows. And so he helped promote the show, which I didn't know that, you know, he was helping promote the show for the club, which was my show, you know, so helping me. And he was excited about, you know, the fact that an LGBT show was coming to Addison, Texas. And I was like, right away, like, I don't even care. I don't have to see a set or see a tape or anything like that. He's LGBT in Addison, Texas, and probably doesn't get the most opportunities. So I was like, yeah, of course he can do a guest set, especially he helped promote and everything else. And, you know, then we became friends, and I encouraged him, and then I brought him out to Chicago to perform with me and Dylan Garcia. And, like, you know, wherever I could help him out, I helped him out, even just advice type stuff. You know, he was on my podcast Unbothered before, one of the, you know, earlier episodes. And, you know, he and I are two people that, like, you know, he clearly doesn't agree with a lot of the things that I say and a lot of things that I think, but we're friends, and I'll always help him, and he's always been a good friend to me. He's never been backstabby or weird, or not been ready with a big hug and a hello when I see him, no matter who's around or what they think, you know, because that to me is more what it's like when you're friends with people, or you feel like you should be supportive of people. You know, anytime I used to see, like, some of the trans comics that we had, some of the ones that ended up being the worst with me, you know, like the shittiest with me, said the worst things about me because they, you know, because I didn't agree with them on a particular topic or the way that a particular thing should be executed. Like, you know, then they started saying that I was transphobic, and it's like, no, I'm not transphobic because I don't agree with you and you just happen to be a trans person. That's not the way that works. It's not like anytime somebody doesn't agree with you, they're transphobic, you know, and I was very clear about that. So I would double down on what I was saying, and then I'd be like, no, that's not the way it works. And sometimes they would get real shitty in the mouth with me, and I'm good at getting real shitty in the mouth back. So I would, like, you know, we'd go out a little bit, you know, a little bit of a Facebook beef back in the day or whatever. And I was really good at making my points, and I was good at representing myself. So they would get mad, and then they just chalk it up to transphobia and tag every person. Like, if you paid attention to my Facebook around that time, you know, like 2014, 2015, 2006, like that whole time, like they were coming for me. And it was like, you know, and I was, you know, they were sending for me, and I was coming. And, you know, some people got their feelings hurt, but I learned to be a tough fag with not a lot of feelings from a young age from hanging out with transgender people. Because, you know, my friends, the trans girls, were so fucking vicious that when we go at it, you better fucking bring it or you're going to get your little feelings hurt. And so that's what I was used to. So I treated them accordingly. And then they're like, oh, he's a hateful person. It's like, no, I'm just good at reading you, bitch. That's what it is. But it doesn't mean I hate people. It doesn't mean that I'm not supportive of the community, because I feel like sometimes there's a different road we can take to get different places. And sometimes I think it's okay for us to exercise the same patience with straight people and the same tolerance with them that we expect them to give to us. You know, like, you can't just be all like receiving, you know, and not give any. Like, that's not the way it works. It's just like, oh, you respect everything I have to say, well, I just tell you're an idiot and correct you every time I think you say something wrong. So I mean, like, I want to build or help build that bridge and help other LGBT people see through this festival that, you know, they can perform in regular rooms. It doesn't have to be some weird alt room, or it doesn't have to be in Portland. It doesn't have to be in Seattle. Those are nice cities, and I know they lean towards the super politically correct, and that's great, and you should do them too. I do those rooms when I get a chance to. But I don't shudder when I have to perform in a redneck club. I don't mind when I'm performing at a pub in Clarksville, Tennessee, or when I'm doing lodge, you know, hot, what is it called? The hot springs, like Saratoga Hot Springs, Wyoming. That's a place that I performed. And if you think I just blend in Wyoming, gay, Mexican, look Asian with the tattoo on my face, tattoos everywhere, if you think that I seem normal to them, even if you take away the gay, you're dead wrong. It's not that kind of situation. I am completely different from them. But it doesn't mean I can't work that room, and it doesn't mean you can't either. And that's what I want with this festival. That's why, like, the industry we invited out wasn't like gay specific industry. It was regular industry, and we were lucky that we had the people that showed up, you know, like we had really great people show up. And, you know, but people from what would be regularly straight markets, you could say. And so, you know, that's what we want. We want people to see LGBT can be mainstream, can be treated just as another comedian and not an LGBT comedian. But the world we live in right now makes it so that if you're going to showcase that, you do make it an actual, you know, event where it's like, come see the best. Like, that's what we wanted when it came to, like, what we're looking for. That's what we wanted when it comes to what we were looking for as far as the comedians went. We wanted to be like, these are the best we could find, and we want you to book them on just regular shows. Just treat them like any other comedian. And we accomplished that because we had great shows. And several of the comedians ended up getting work, getting contacts so that they can get work. And so, you know, our shirts looked amazing. Our backdrops looked amazing, you know, like our step and repeat, as they call it, which is that big thing you stand in front of that has like the different brands on it. Like Svedka Vodka had sponsored us, and they paid for the shirts, and I believe this, yeah, and also the step and repeat. And, you know, they were a sponsor, so, like a legit sponsor. And so we had really nice shirts, you know. We had like a black version that was like kind of concert tees with all the different comedians' names on the back for 2020. And then we had another shirt that was like that same style, but without the names on the back. And then we also had shirts for the comedians that got selected and the headliners, like everybody involved with the show, and the volunteers that were like a yellow, because the other ones are black. These were yellow, and they were like actual jerseys with the names on the back, you know? So with not the names as in all the names of the comedians, the name of the individual comedian, whatever their last name is or whatever name they would prefer have on the back of the shirt, that's what was there. So like, you know, it was a class act type of event, you know, like, obviously we have goals, and this was our first year, so we couldn't pay for everything, and, you know, but like, we went out of our way to make it as nice as it possibly could be. We had a Saturday barbecue, Saturday daytime barbecue, where Brunchies sponsored us for that. Brunchies brought out great food. Like it was a beautiful spread the way they did it at Brunchies. Cake pops that if you bit into them were rainbow color. Like it was amazing. And I already love Brunchies. If you know my social media and my thing, they're my friends. Right now they're watching Bijou because I'm going to Reno in the morning. But they're my actual friends. And I was so proud to see my friends put out that kind of display. It's like, yeah, that's what you want to do as a sponsor, and that's the kind of thing where I'm talking to people and I can be like, did you check out what Brunchies did, and tell them all about Brunchies and why they should use, you know, like that's what you want a sponsor to do. And they did that, you know, and they're friends with all three of us, you know, so really they could have been like, let's be skimpy on this since these are our friends and we're doing them a favor by sponsoring them anyway. And they didn't. They went all out. And mimosas, which I think we might have brought the mimosas. I think Brunchies just set up their stuff around, but they brought filet mignon, which is the chicken legs that have the maple and bacon or brown sugar and bacon, and it's a whole recipe. The way they do it, it's so excellent. And then they brought this mac and cheese that was this mac and cheese was and then what else did they bring? Green beans. Salad. The salad was amazing. Brisket. It's so good. And you know, like, but we arranged that with them, and they came on as a sponsor, and the comics and the headliners got to enjoy that. Leslie Jordan showed up. You know, we had Leslie Jordan on the lineup, and you know, he's good friends with Steven, so that happened. Jaws is amazing at everything she does. Like, that's like one reason that I love doing this festival is that, you know, my co-producers, Jocelyn Sharp and Steven Roberts, just were so amazing. You know, like they're so good at what they do. Jocelyn is just a superwoman, like a true superwoman, like just getting stuff done and making stuff happen and organized and keeping track of stuff. And then there's Steven, who's really organized and figures out, like, you know, the logistics of a lot of things and in the moment type of stuff. And then, you know, I'm doing my part, which, you know, my part is my part. And I'm good at my part, and my part is very necessary, and I know this, so I don't feel threatened by the fact that their departments aren't my department, because I know what I do is important too. And you know, if you ask me, and I am saying this from an honest outsider, like if I were to be an outsider looking in, like we're all 1/3 responsible for the end product. But then there's also people that are helping us, like the volunteers and Steven's husband Joseph and the bar staff and the server, you know, and just or the club staff and the club owners, Matt and Joaquin from the LA Comedy Club. They're hugely responsible, like everybody, because you know, everybody's doing their part, everybody's making sure that their part is working. And so with everybody doing that, it's kind of fail-proof, or it seems fail-proof, you know, and then the other comedians on the scene are all throwing out the social media like, you know, check out these guys, you guys have to see this show, you know, or these shows. And we had great turnouts for every show. People were drinking, people were having a good time, the talent was there, everything was running smooth as far as selling t-shirts and you know, selling tickets and making sure people got checked in and making sure people got festival passes, and there were swag bags. And, you know, I'd Rather Be Naked was one of our sponsors, which this is just one of their wristbands, but I love I'd Rather Be Naked. That's my friend Jason. He runs I'd Rather Be Naked from Sarasota, Florida. That's where he's actually based out of. And they have, you know, they're a really cool brand that's trans owned and operated. So, you know, you can't hate on that, you know. And it was just so much good. The headliners, I mean, like I mentioned, Leslie Jordan, there was Debbie Gutierrez, there was Tim Dillon on Sunday, there was Samson McCormick, there was Tony Tripoli, and all of those people did us a huge favor too, because this is our first year, you know. And so we're trying to make the experience as good as it possibly could be, but it's not like we have the biggest budgets to just throw at talent, you know. This is our first year, but everybody was cool because they really liked us and they really believed in the idea. And if you look at like the production, the way that it all went down, you can tell that, you know, we were actually using the money that we were making for the things we were supposed to use them for. You know, it's not like we were being wasteful or anything. We were making it the experience that it has to be, to not only be professional, but be fun and be welcoming. I tried to give all of the comedians a hug as soon as they came up, because, you know, I was there when a lot of people got their swag bags. A few people I missed, but for the most part, I was there when everybody got their swag bag. And I wanted people to know, as soon as they walked up, I wanted these other comedians to know that I am happy to have you, and, like, you know, I did enjoy your submission, or I did want you to be on the festival. And so, you know, as soon as I saw them, I was of course willing to hug. There was one comedian that ended up spending a night on my couch. You know, he said he was going to possibly sleep at a bathhouse just because it's cheaper, and I know that thinking. I slept at a bathhouse because it's cheaper. And I told him, you know, I was like, do you want to have sex at the bathhouse? Because if you want to have sex at the bathhouse and then go to sleep, I don't blame you, go do that. But if you're just looking for a cheap place to sleep, I have a couch you can sleep on. And he was like, yeah, I'd really much rather sleep on a couch than sleep at the bathhouse. And I was like, cool, then you can sleep on my couch. So he slept on my couch for a night, you know, and I was, you know, very thankful to everybody, like, you know, from the headliners to the submission comics, for the way that they worked with us, you know, and coming out and being a part of it and submitting, and, you know, the commitment of even having to be here for a weekend. You know, I don't discount that based off of how much I would think somebody works if they're not, you know, like, I don't think of things like that. I think of things like, you know, you're taking time out of your schedule and dipping into your pockets to spend a weekend in Vegas when, you know, you could be booking other work. But, you know, it's all made me very thankful, but at the same time, it does feel very surreal. And I did mention, like, my set, but when you think about how great the entire festival was, it is kind of you being a spoil sport when you're still concerned with the fact that you didn't think your set went as well as it should have gone. That's something, as a comedian, especially as much as I've done it, that was within my control. I did it the wrong way because I should have just gone from the heart and said what I was going to say and risked crying, and then everybody could have seen, like, the me that wanted to do this. You know, the me that really, like, came up with this idea and thought I was joking, but really knew that I thought it's necessary to let people that are kind of maybe sometimes seen as outsiders within a group of outsiders, or outside of a group of outsiders, to feel like, you know, they have a place where they can be at home and express themselves however they express themselves. Because, the bisexuals deal with a lot of that, because a lot of people feel like they have one foot in, one foot out, so they don't necessarily trust the bisexual or think of them as actually being a part of the community or being the same, which is where Jocelyn falls in. Jocelyn is bisexual, and there's people that think that she's not bisexual because she ended up marrying a man. And it's like, no, that's actually what bisexuality is. You can, be sexually attracted to either. So if you can be sexually attracted to either, you could obviously marry either. It's like, it's either one would work for you. And so she just happened to find her partner, or a man that's her partner, or, to be her partner, that was meant to be her partner. Because I do feel like everything happens for a reason. And, her husband is great, like I really do appreciate his contribution too, because that's the other thing. I mentioned Jaws being a superwoman. Well, if you're going to be a superwoman, then, and you have a man, then your man is going to get neglected. It just has to happen that way. Like you can take some time out and actually, have some quality time with him here and there. But I can tell you the way Jocelyn has been working, because not only is she working on Laughed Out, she also runs her own business, Sharper Edge Media. Then she also is a stand-up, like working stand-up, does the road. And while all this is happening, her husband is getting ignored. So, to say that he doesn't deserve some credit or doesn't deserve a thank you, in my opinion, doesn't make sense and isn't something I would try to get away with. I definitely appreciate him for letting us, steal his wife from him for a while, I don't know if I sound jumbled right now, but everything I say is everything I mean, and sometimes it takes me a long road to get there. So that's why when I write jokes, I take out as many words as I can possibly take out, and then sometimes I talk real fast so that I can get the point out. But it's where Stephen Roberts comes in handy. Besides, his organizational skills and his amazing husband, like helping us out. Like Stephen Roberts sometimes, will feel like he's not doing enough, but sometimes just him translating for me is enough. Because sometimes I do speak in jumbled ways, or sometimes I put things backwards when I'm trying to say them a certain way. And Stephen comes in and he'll rephrase it, and then everybody gets what I'm saying, and I actually get to be taken the way that I'm meaning things to be taken, and my direction gets taken more seriously. It's really valuable. And then even mediating between me and Jaws, because every once in a while me and Jaws aren't necessarily speaking the same language, because she has a different way that she articulates certain things, and we're learning more and more to, it's not like we've had a huge problem with it or anything like that, but there have been a few times where, our communication style is different, so we it would appear like maybe kind of clash or disagree, but it's not really that deep. There was only one time where it was, we got a little bit heated with each other, but that was way in the beginning, and it definitely was a misunderstanding. I think I was still raw from the breakup, and that was also a part of what was going on for me personally. You got to own your part of it, and I think, there was also some of that going on where I took her the wrong way because I was already feeling sensitive. And so, yeah, but even in that, Stephen helped diffuse it, and also was like, maybe she's seeing it this way and this is what she's trying to say, and then I understand what you're trying to say is over here, but sometimes you have to think about this. And it gave me a different way to think about it, and then it was like, yeah, I should probably reach out and say something. And that's invaluable. Like a person that will actually mediate between two people rather than make it bigger or make it worse or turn it into a us against them type of thing. And then we all have to be secure in what it is we're doing. Like I said, we all have our parts, and I consider us to all be, equally responsible for the great outcome. But at the same time, sometimes you're going to feel like you're not doing enough, and sometimes you're going to feel like you're doing too much. Sometimes you're going to feel like you're not really working. Sometimes you're going to feel like everybody else is working. and sometimes you do have to cover for each other, and sometimes somebody's going to be a little bit late, and you're all going to have to be understanding of that. All of these things do happen when you're working with people, but as long as overall the tone is respect and everybody has the same goal, then it's good, and nobody should get threatened by the amount anybody works. Like, sometimes I know that my job, the best job for me, is to get out of the way, and sometimes the best way to lead is by following. Sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes you just got to shut your mouth and you got to say, okay, this person is better at this than I am. So I can go in there and fumble with it, or even sit over their shoulder and micromanage and tell them, I think you should do this like this, and I think you should do that like that. Or I can completely get out of their way and let them work as efficiently as they possibly can. And then when they bring it back to me, give them any feedback that I think might be helpful. And then when I give the feedback, if they don't necessarily agree with that, I should look at things the way that they're looking at them. And you know what? In a lot of cases, I see things the other person's way after I look at it, or after they explain it to me, and maybe some people would say that, you're dumb for that because you should stick to your own. But when it makes sense, it makes sense. When people explain things to me and they're like, okay, well, this is being done because if we do it like this, it'll work like this. And then also from a marketing perspective, and then blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there and I'm paying attention to every word. It's not like I'm getting lost on any of it, and when I do feel a little bit lost, I say that too. Like, that's something you can ask Steven and Jaws about me. Like, I will let them know, I don't know exactly what this means. Explain it to me. And then, I'd rather know than pretend I know and then later on be blindsided or cause an argument because I didn't realize the way something worked. So, like, I will ask, and, then once things are explained to me and then they make sense, then I'm usually like, yeah, well, then let's do that, Glad we have you. That's what you're here for. And they, in turn, do listen to me, because, like, when I really dig my heels in and I'm like, this I will not compromise on, it makes it actually carry some weight, and there's still room for compromise. It's not like I completely won't, but it's just to convey to them, like, this is one that I really feel strongly about. And when I say that, usually everybody goes with it because I can lay it out for them, and it's something I really care about, so I can lay it out to them to a point where it's like, they look at me at the end and they're like, yeah, that does make sense. Or, that's not that big of a deal, so I'm not going to fight it. It's just a big deal to you, and there's a reason it's a big deal. That's the other thing you have to respect when you're working with other people, in my opinion, is some things aren't going to be a big deal to you that are going to be a big deal to them. And in the end, can actually make a big difference in just the way the overall product comes out. It can just give it that little extra professionalism or that little extra detail that makes people know you care. And you don't even realize it until afterwards when you see it and you're like, oh, that is kind of a big deal, or that does just give it that little bit of extra. People mention, like, the names on the back of the shirts, and that's something that I had suggested because I just thought from perspective of, you get these swag bags when you go to festivals and stuff like that, and a lot of times they'll just throw any size shirt in there, and I wear a small, and they'll throw a large or an extra large, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do with an extra large shirt? Am I going to give it to somebody else? So we made it a point to get everybody's sizes. We hit them up, got their sizes, asked them what name they wanted on the back of the jersey, so that they would have a shirt that was made for them from our festival as a souvenir and a thank you, a shirt that's your own shirt made for you and nobody else, So that was something that I really wanted. It wasn't, because I knew that it might be kind of expensive. It wasn't one that I was gonna, the hill I was gonna die on. I just was like, I think this would be cool. Can we do that? And then Jaws and Steven were like, yeah, I think that would be really cool too. And so we just made that the way that the shirts worked. Jaws, when it came to certain things on the marketing end, there were certain things that she was like, no, this is the way that we have to do them. Steven, when it came to certain things with dealing with the talent, he would be like, no, this is the way I want to be treated. I would want to be treated, and this is the way that I think we should do this particular thing. And then you think about it and you're like, yeah, that's a small thing, but it makes all the difference in the world. Steven had the entire staff of the LA Comedy Club wearing laughed out t-shirts, you know, because we had shirts, plenty of shirts, so we just gave everybody their size and had them wearing the shirts during our event. Then it brands it even more. All of our volunteers were wearing the laughed out t-shirts. They had the yellow one so people would know that they were actually part of the staff, you know, so they were, or the staff for laughed out specifically. So the bar staff is wearing the black ones, supporting the event, but not, you know, working necessarily just for the event, also working for the comedy club itself. And then our volunteers had their yellow ones so that people would know specifically, oh, these people must know something about this and these people must know something about this. And that was Steven's idea, and it was so spot on and so perfect, and just the kind of little detail that makes all the difference in the world once you see the full finished product. Which he didn't run by me, but I had already warned them, like, early in the process. Like, you know, there's certain things that if you don't run them by me, I'm fine with that, because if it's gonna make everything better, like, you know, like shirts that we already have, it's not like it's gonna hurt me that he gives the staff these shirts so that we look more professional. That's not a decision you have to run by me. It's something that he decided in the moment and started throwing out shirts like Oprah. And then I saw everybody with their shirts and I was like, that does look professional. I'm glad he went ahead and did that. Yeah. And then my friend Randy Ross bought me these flowers, which were waiting for me in the green room on Saturday night. Thank you, Randy Ross. I really do appreciate you, Randy Ross. This is a very sweet and classy gift, and I hope you're loving life in Florida. But yep, Randy Ross gave me and Maya Jamie, the two Las Vegas comedians, or two of the Las Vegas comedians. No offense to anybody if we had others. So sensitive these days. Congratulations. So proud of you and your comedy parade of pride. Wish I could be there. Love you. Love your hair. Break a leg. XOXO. Randy Ross. Do you see what I was saying? That I was being petty and small-minded for even caring about, like, my set. It's still going to be better next year because I got to figure it out. And when it comes to that, I got a certain way I talk to myself on that stuff. I do say, bitch, you need to get it together. And it's your job to be a comedian and not their job to be your audience. So you figure out what the fuck you got to do and you fix it. You get out there and fix it, anime. You hear me, anime? You get out there and fix it. And then I always fix it. So, Laughed Out 2021, gonna be litty. And I'm gonna be doing it for real. Gotta redeem myself. Show why I'm the creator of the absolute best LGBTQ comedy festival in the world, and exactly why I'm the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Hope you like this one, you guys.